He then promises himself that he won't waste this second chance he's been given. Suddenly, he bumps into a boy who falls to the ground, grumbling in pain. Our protagonist extends a hand and asks the young man if he's okay after the fall. The boy, completely shocked, looks up at our hero's face. Suddenly, he notices the boy wearing a mask he knows all too well. Two people approach, worriedly asking if the boy named Minato is hurt. Our hero turns pale when he realizes they're also wearing the masks of his old guild. Confused, he can't comprehend what's happening. He runs a hand over his face, trying to process the bizarre situation. Sweat drips down his face as he wonders what's going on. Looking around, he realizes everyone in the hall is wearing the same masks. He recalls the traitor's words, saying it was a shame everything had to end that way. Kazuki had said he shouldn't be sad because he'd be remembered as a great hero. With that, our hero finally understands the traitor's meaning. He whispers the traitor's name with pure hatred in his eyes. He runs through the crowd of masked people, who completely ignore him. In front of him is an altar with his photo, flowers, and candles in his honor. Our protagonist wonders if this is all a sham to steal his guild's glory. Shocked, he can't believe his former friend's nerve. Suddenly, a bright blue light begins to shine from among the flowers on the altar. Our hero notices the strange glow and focuses his gaze on the mysterious light. Without a second thought, he pushes people aside to get closer to the altar. The people get irritated and yell at him to be careful and wait his turn. With all the pushing and shoving, he ends up falling to his knees right in front of the memorial. His hand touches the glowing flowers, and he picks up one. He recognizes the energy of an old teammate. Far away, on top of a building, someone calmly watches the city from above. The hooded man remarks that they managed to survive another year without any incidents. A companion mentions that they narrowly avoided encountering the Blue Zone individuals. The partner questions the necessity of holding this ceremony annually, but Sugar asserts that unforeseen circumstances could arise, and it's better to err on the side of caution. With a smile, he suggests that Subaru might notice the flowers he left as a gift. The partner doubts Subaru's survival, but Sugar admits he hasn't personally witnessed it. The hooded man believes Kazuki is more likely to find them before they find Subaru. He becomes agitated, expressing that if their leader were alive, they wouldn't have wasted 20 years sitting around. The scene transitions to a breathtaking sunset, with birds gracefully flying across the sky. Back to our protagonist. He's breathless, but exudes a sense of hope. He contemplates the possibility of his old companion's survival after all this time. In a secluded spot, he continues to process the possibility of her being alive. As he gazes at the flower in his hand, he firmly whispers Sugar's name. Later, he finds himself in Subaru Hoso's room, observing the simplicity of the space. On the device, he searches for his former guild, but finds no results. Despite this, he remains certain that Sugar survived the massacre. Our protagonist becomes frustrated, thinking she has been in hiding for 20 years. He concludes that Kazuki is the root cause of all their problems. Since he wouldn't reveal the truth, he wonders if Sugar truly survived alone and if the other three also managed to escape. However, he acknowledges that as long as the traitor is alive, attempting to make contact is a suicide mission. Besides, our protagonist feels powerless, and forcing the issue would only put him in danger. Looking at the flower and the mask, he realizes he needs to prioritize something important first. With a determined expression, he resolves to regain his former power. Following Hoso's memories, he retrieves a training sword from the room. 2 days later, the tutorial to become a player finally begins for him. Our hero believes that if he survives this trial, everything will be fine in the end. He holds on to the hope that as long as they are alive, they can meet again at any time. The scene takes us to a large coliseum, which serves as the examination hall for the tutorial. Inside, several bodies are scattered on the floor, indicating the difficulty of the test. A bald-bearded man named Huger observes everything with a serious expression. Nearby, a young warrior is out of breath after defeating several green creatures. The examiner, Huger, looks at the young man and informs him that he passed the test by a hair. Hyuger asks if the young man wants to try the next step, but he's quite confused by the offer. A screen appears, explaining that with each step, a new goblin appears, and the rewards increase. The warrior refuses on the spot, and Hyuger fails him, saying that just hearing that gives him a headache. However, the young man insists that the important thing is that he managed to pass the test anyway. The examiner is disappointed because he'll have to let a weakling like that guy pass. He complains that apart from Isaac, who passed stage 20, no one else there looks promising. With a look of contempt, Hyuger complains that the quality of this year's recruits is terrible. Suddenly, he notices something on his clipboard and looks more closely at the arena. It was our protagonist, Subaru Hosoi, entering the battlefield with his sword in hand. Hyuger reads the name Subaru Hosoi and comments that it's a name with a lot of weight to carry. He then warns that our hero can only use that name if he manages to pass the test. Our guy agrees, and a screen pops up in front of him to start the challenge. The system then generates 2 goblins, and the mission is simply to defeat the 2 creatures. The examiner prepares to start the tutorial, but is interrupted by a fast-moving blur. Before our hero could even finish his sentence, he had already defeated both monsters. Hyuger, confused, wondered what had just flown past him. The examiner didn't even blink, and pieces of the monsters were already flying across the arena. Our hero smiled, knowing that testing the limits of this new body for 2 days had been the right decision. He then discovered that the body he woke up in was actually quite exceptional. The screen asked if he wanted to proceed to the next step, and he accepted without hesitation. Seeing the young man's speed, the examiner's jaw dropped, unable to believe the scene. In an instant, another goblin head rolled and stopped right at the examiner's feet. With the arena littered with bodies, Hyuger wondered what was happening. The examiner watched our hero fight and realized that he wasn't just attacking randomly. With a keen eye, he noticed that our hero wasn't just swinging his sword aimlessly. Instead, he was reading the enemy's movements. 2 or 3 steps ahead, his hand gripped the sword firmly, and he continued the slaughter without stopping. Hyuger thought that this wasn't just being good with a sword. Not even he could do that. With a confident smile, our protagonist showed that he was in complete control. The examiner then suspected that the young man was the reincarnation of Subaru Narukami himself. With a precise strike, our hero finished off another creature with his sharp sword. He then stopped and faced the last standing goblin before finishing it off as well. A screen appeared, notifying him that he had cleared step 49 and asking about the boss. Even out of breath and sweating, our hero said that since he had come this far, he might as well keep going. Our protagonist was exhausted, but he knew he needed to continue to finish the tutorial. Suddenly, a blue energy started to crack the entire arena floor with full force. From the ground, a giant shadowy hand emerged for our hero's final challenge. The examiner panicked and shouted that he was no Narukami to face that thing. Hyuger warns him to stop if he wants to survive, but it's too late for warnings. The ground trembles, and the final boss reveals itself to be the Goblin King. Furious about the sacrifices, the Goblin King sees the monster and screams desperately for our hero to give up because fighting is madness. The examiner insists that it's suicide, and the power difference between them is too great. Our hero knows that with his current stats, he won't be able to deal any significant damage. But even so, he tightens his grip on his sword, refusing to back down from the impending battle. Suddenly, our protagonist surprises everyone by dropping his weapon and declaring his refusal. This move panics Sugar, who wonders if the young man has finally lost his mind. The Goblin King charges full speed at our hero, who is now unarmed. At that moment, an object hits the monster's shoulder, catching it off guard during its attack. The beast looks down at its leg and sees a thin needle stuck there, completely confused. A drop of sweat rolls down the Goblin King's face as it remains bewildered by what just happened. It then looks at our protagonist, who is crouched on the ground, picking something up. With a smile, our hero shows off some needles and asks if the creature is surprised. Our hero then proposes a little bet to the final boss of the tutorial. He challenges the monster to see who can defeat the other first in this fight. Our protagonist smiles and completes the challenge, declaring that he's going to turn the monster into a pincushion. With his eyes gleaming, he then throws the needles with impressive speed towards the beast. The Goblin King roars in fury and demands an answer to the challenge he received from the young man. The creature then charges with its mouth wide open, ready to devour our hero in one bite. The monster raises its axe and delivers a powerful blow to crush the boy. With a swift motion, the axe comes down with full force towards our protagonist. Our hero, faster and agile, manages to dodge the attack and throws himself to the side. Crouched on the ground, he observes the monster closely, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Suddenly, a memory from the past flashes in his mind, aiding him in the battle. In a flashback, we see his former self practicing his throwing skills on a tree with a target. The object hits the target dead on, showcasing the precision of his intense training. A woman named Rina scolds him, saying he can't throw like that. With a smile, she says anything can be used as a throwing weapon. She then demonstrates the correct way to hold the object for the attack, explaining that any item becomes a knife if you know its center of gravity. The object hits the target dead on, demonstrating the precision of his training. Back in the present, the needles hit the Goblin King's face, causing him to bleed in pain. From the impact, the creature screams in agony and starts to fall backward, weakened. Our hero explains that the power comes from the spin and the precision from the lack of hesitation. With a serious look, he recalls that it was his old companion, Rina, who taught him everything. He realizes that the poison needles didn't disappear and uses that to his advantage. The examiner is shocked because Huger used both a sword and hidden weapons to win the fight. With a sweat on his face, Huger admits that the young man before him is a true genius. The riddled Goblin King roars in pain but is already very weak from the poison. With that, the monster can't take it anymore and collapses to the ground, completely defeated. Our hero approaches and picks up his sword to deliver the final blow. He says he has nothing against the beast, but needs to finish the tutorial once and for all. With a decisive strike, our hero finishes off the creature, ending the battle for good. The system announces that he has defeated the Goblin King and completed step 50 of the tutorial. Exhausted, our protagonist laments that a monster like that shouldn't be in a tutorial. After a victory, several screens appear, rewarding him with points and a level up. Curious about his 2,425 points, he ventures into the shop, where he finds various inexpensive items. However, he anticipates having many points left over. As he scrolls down, he encounters something astonishing, a nameless demonic sword crafted by kindred. Our hero is taken aback. While tempted by the sword, he's concerned about his limited life force, which is already drained by his lightning ability. Then he discovers the holy sword Miranda, which appears safer. Our protagonist is torn between choosing destructive power or the safety of the other weapon. With a sense of responsibility, he realizes the importance of making a wise decision about his points. Suddenly, he notices something peculiar on the shop screen that piques his interest. He realizes he can still scroll down and explore more items in the shop. Among them, he finds the skill wedge of greed, which can mitigate the adverse effects of items. Our hero understands that this skill can suppress the negative consequences of the sword and his lightning ability. Without hesitation, he purchases the skill and the demonic sword, taking a calculated risk. Huger, observing the young man's choice, expresses his preference for the demonic sword. He praises the decision and acknowledges the compatibility of the items, but he remains puzzled by the choice. The examiner questions why he opted for such a risky and unfamiliar skill. At this point, our hero becomes irritated and demands a detailed explanation. He becomes frustrated with the formal speech required from the supervisor. Seeing his reaction, Huger offers to overlook it, attributing it to the exhaustion of the exam. Our protagonist recalls that the young man from his past has become a supervisor. In a memory, a young, embarrassed Huger approached our hero, requesting an autograph. However, in his past life, our hero had declined, stating he didn't have an autograph to give. The boy persisted, asking him to simply write his name in his notebook. Back in the present, Huger complained about his lack of manners, to which our hero scoffed. Our protagonist refused to answer and requested secrecy regarding the test results. This infuriated the examiner, who vowed to teach the young man some manners. He then invited him to the Chivalry Guild, but our hero declined immediately. A screen appeared, asking if he wanted to go to the second floor, and he accepted without hesitation. With that, our hero disappeared, and Huger desperately yelled for him to wait. Alone, Huger was disappointed with the young man's attitude and sighs, feeling frustrated. Meanwhile, our protagonist finally arrived on the second floor of the Great Tower. He found himself in a bustling place called the Land of Beginnings. As he looked around, he realized he was back in that place after a long time. He knew this was his second chance and couldn't waste this unique opportunity, having lived through all this once before. Our protagonist understood that he had to do everything better. He would do it for his companions, who might be waiting for him, and for his revenge, with his goal in mind.